But the question is, does the president have to, make this statement, put out the statement there for these governors to understand what the situation is and just begin to give this wage award? Do they have to wait for the president?
Absolutely not. And that speaks volume, Veronica, with regards to the kind of sensitivities and sensibilities at subnationals. Let us just step back a bit and look at the history of this minimum wage to dimension it and see how serious it is. 1981, minimum wage was 125 naira, Veronica. At that time, the dollar equivalent was $195. So you can look at somebody taking home 125 naira minimum wage at a time that naira was stronger than the dollar. Now fast forward to 1989, 1990, around when President Babangida implemented the structural adjustment program and there was high level of austerity. Even at that time, minimum wage was around 250 naira, when at that time, it's equivalent to about $31. Now, fast forward to today, 30,000 naira minimum wage, equivalent to around $20. You can see how battered naira has become with regards to its purchasing power. In 2019, thereabouts, former President Muhammad Buhari, there was an agreement with the organized labor and the minimum wage was pegged at 30,000 naira. As of a couple of months ago, over 20 state governments were not paying those minimum wages. State governments were owing months on end. And Q3 last year, President Tinubu approved an intervention of 35,000 naira to add to the 30,000 naira. Most states that are paying 30,000, your guess is as good as mine with regards to 35. So, to be honest, Mr. President's crying out again and appealing to the governors is an indication of how bad things are, given the vagaries of food insecurity and other socio-economic variables that are impacting all over the place. The mental health of Nigerians is going worse by the day. People are frustrated and dejected. I'm yet to see, serious action taken by those governors that are yet to, pay that 30,000 minimum. By the way, let us not forget that there's a committee set up by Mr. President to review this minimum wage because organized labor are saying, and rightly so, 30,000 naira cannot cut it anymore. The question is, states that are yet to be paying 30,000 naira, will they be able to pay the next minimum wage that will be pegged? The governors as subnationals really need to sit up and face this reality because it is very key for our progress as a nation.
So I'm wondering exactly what I was wondering, because now we saw a story. We saw the news that the labor union, although they tried to dissociate themselves from it, that it was just still in the talk. They are still in the talks with all of those. They said between 500,000 and 800,000 naira is what they would want to demand as minimum wage. Where we are talking about 30,000 naira. Is there a way that the governors of these states that are defaulting can be held accountable in order to, one, pay what they are owing, and also live up to expectations by paying at least living wage for their workers?
Thank you, Ibrahim. The governments don't need to be reminded that Nigeria is at its highest politically aware time. The political consciousness of Nigeria is at its highest now. And people are not going to sit back and just take whatever comes because it is reality. Now back to your question. Yes, the labor actually initially it was about 1 million, and I think it's a negotiation number. The engagement will continue. We don't know where it will end, but certainly it will be far, far, far ahead of 30,000, which makes your question very relevant. The truth is that most of these governments at subnational levels were already indebted. For those that are in their first terms and for those that are in their second term, they've already run into these negatives. And then we have the global and the national, socio-economic issues. But then that, will bring out the value, innovation, and value creativity capacity of these governors with regards to the mandate that they sought for. They sought the mandate knowing the numbers. So we would like to see the seriousness with which governors are taking governance at subnational. They have to be creative. There must be value innovation to pay the minimum wage. Let us also, while we are at it, recognize that there is a loud silence with regards to the provision for the informal sector, which is about 80%, of our labor force in Nigeria. But the governors have to have their thinking caps on because it's a reality they have to face. I reckon that citizens will not sit down and continue this way because the reality is it cannot continue this way. And that's the fact.
In fact, pensioners were saying that they have not been captured in all of these measures being put in place by the federal government. Absolutely. And that something has to be done as well.